with you. There's still so many questions to talk about. The vocabulary questions, the inference questions, the sentence addition questions, the paraphrase questions. So there will be many chances for you to practice and to utilize your new skills, okay? So I'm going to put that book away for right now, okay? All right. Now, we still have a lot of reading work to get into this week, so please get your books, which you probably already had since you were checking your answers and I was using the answer book. Okay. In Lesson 2, I started working with you on detail questions and negative detail questions, which, if you remember, we solved by a process of elimination, by finding the 3 correct answers one by one, and then by process of elimination we have the exception, the one that doesn't fit. Okay, today we're going to practice more of our skills in solving detail questions, and we also might do some negative detail questions. And at some point this week, either today or in tomorrow's lesson, Lesson 5, we still want to get to the inference question. And the inference question is it's like a cousin of the detail question. They're very similar, they share some common blood, but yet they still are different in other ways. The inference question is indirect. The detail question is direct. You can take your index finger and point to the line where the detail is. Now the answer will not be, you know, word for word exactly the same. It's not a second grade reader, okay? You do have to change the words around to synonyms and pick the one that's almost exactly the same. That's a detail question. On the inference question, we find a clue and we have to make our own inference. We have to make a little bit of a jump, a logical conclusion or inference, hypothesis, whatever you want to call it. So the inference question is a little less direct. However, good news, we will be using our same strategies. Okay, if I say the letters KPL, does that ring a bell? What do you think of? Some kind of airline? Political group? No. Okay. Well, if you've forgotten, KPL is kind of those are the initials of the 3 strategies that I use when I am doing a detail question or an inference question, the cousin, which we'll get to a little bit later this week. Remember, the K stands for key points, the P stands for preview, and the L stands for location. Okay? So I am going to remind you of how to use some of those strategies today, and also we will get to move on to some new activities where you'll have a chance to try some of them on your own, and then we'll gather back together. Kind of like when I ask you to stop the lesson sometime, try the speaking and come back. So gradually, I'm going to be giving over more of the responsibility to you. However, you do have a way to respond to me, okay? So for example, the preview test, the one for which I just gave you the answers, if there were some questions that didn't make sense, by all means, please send me an email and I will clarify it in a future lesson or to you directly, individually. Or if you're one of my wonderful people on the Platinum Plan and we get to spend an hour together each week in a private lesson or semi-private lesson, please bring it up. Okay, normally the lessons are times for me to hear you speak or go over your writing with you, those productive skills where you're producing language. However, there's nothing wrong with asking questions about the reading or the listening during those lessons. Okay, and I have to beg your forgiveness for a second. My window is open, so I can't stop the recording. So please forgive me for 1 second. Okay, I'm very sorry. As you can tell, I do come to visit you every day like a TV show, but it's just TV show without the beautiful people or the necessarily smooth moves. So I'm sorry for that, but I don't want any extra noise that could possibly distract us tonight or today. Sorry, I forgot. Okay, let's go to the reading section. I want us to take a look at exercise 1.1, page 30. Okay, everybody find page 30, please. Okay, I love this exercise, and I really like Bruce Rogers. I've never met him, but I like the way that he puts together this book. because he does things in a similar way to me, or I do things in a similar way to him. I guess it's his book, so we better go the other way. But instead of just giving us exercises that look exactly like the TOEFL, he builds up our skills. And exercise 1 is a perfect example of this. If you look at page 31 and you see those questions, your first thought is probably, wait a minute, where are the answer choices? Where's the A, B, C, D? This is supposed to be a multiple choice reading test. I'm just supposed to pick one. I'm not supposed to do anything else, right? No. There's a lot of things that you can do. And this is training us to use our scanning, okay? Which is what we do after we've performed the KPL. We go search for that detail. Or we search for the three correct statements in the negative detail question. We eliminate them one by one. Or we look for the clue to make the inference. So KPL is part of 3 of the 10 different questions. Detail questions, negative detail questions, and inference questions. And again, I'm sorry, I know your book calls them fact questions, detail questions, tomato, same thing. Okay, let's get busy here. All right, let's read the instructions. First of all, the focus is scanning short passages to find and identify answers for factual or detail questions and negative factual or detail questions. Okay, directions. First, read the questions about each of the passages. See, even Bruce Rogers gets it. He didn't say first read this passage with 6 paragraphs. He knows better. We're going right to the questions. However, we're going to do one extra step tonight. Even though it's not part of this exercise, we're going to practice the previewing. And not the previewing from KPL, where you preview the answer choices, because there are no answer choices. We're going to do our passage preview, the we are going to do that quick preview where we look at the topic sentence of each paragraph, and we number our paper from 1 to, in this case, 6, because there are 6 paragraphs, and we just jot down a couple words about each paragraph, just to remind us of how the author put this together. And these clues will help us later on when we do full reading passages and we have a whole set of questions, including chart questions. If we understand the overall structure, remember how we did that the other night with the biological barriers and pathways, and we took just a couple minutes and we had broken down all 6 or 7 paragraphs. We knew the author's game. We were inside his head or her head, and we knew how they organized all the paragraphs. That's what we're going to do tonight. But our main job is to go to the questions, okay? Read the questions about each of the passages, and then we're supposed to locate the sentence in the passage that provides the information needed to answer the question. They're really focusing on the scanning because there is no answer. So once we find the information, we have nothing to match it to because they don't want us. Bruce Rogers doesn't want us to just focus on choosing the right answer. I think he wants us to focus on the strategy that will help us locate that detail. Okay? For the negative factual questions, and we'll know those because they'll always have the word except or not. They'll have a negative word in all capital letters. For those negative fact or detail questions, find the sentence that probably contains the 3 incorrect choices, meaning the 3 that are true. Okay, remember we're looking for the false one, which is really correct. So I know it's kind of mixed up, but you know what we're doing here. We're supposed to underline the sentence in our book, unless you're choosing not to write in your book at all, and write the number of the question that it answers next to the sentence. Don't worry about answering the questions themselves. Concentrate on finding the information in the passage. The first one is done as an example. Okay, so question 1, what story is told about the first dentist in the North American colonies? And they underline this sentence here that says, according to legend, he became lost in a snowstorm while riding to see a patient and was never seen again. That's a sad story. My father was a dentist, by the way, back in Iowa and in the Navy. So I can relate to dentistry at least a little bit, although none of my family members now practice dentistry. Okay, now you know how much I respect Bruce Rogers, but I would like to add some things to his exercise here that come from me.